put. 12 members voted against. There were no abstentions. The motion is carried. Honourable Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you may recall my government's public commitment to the people of our country that no one must be above the law. No one must be above the law. Today, I want to disclose a very troubling instance of alarming misconduct which implicates a member of this House, but not in his capacity as a member of Parliament, but in his private capacity, acting privately. TNTech recently instructed its lawyers to file a claim against Favourite Foods Limited to recover outstanding arrears on unpaid electricity bills in the sum of $2,392,220.11. That's about $2.4 million. Upon examination, Mr. Speaker, it was discovered that the claim was statute barred. These arrears are on unpaid electricity bills by Favourite had accumulated over a 5-year period between April 2017 and January 2022. The history of the matter is telling and instructive, as TNTech unbelievably continued to supply electricity to Favourite Foods, even though Favourite was not paying their bills and had repeatedly breached payment plans. Favourite had two accounts with TNTech. Account number 21427-21427 and account number 21427-694634. Both accounts, Mr. Speaker, fell into arrears. They paid to pay their electricity bills on these two accounts, and the outstanding arrears started to grow. As of 6 April 2019, Favourite owed $572,000, and TNTech finally disconnected Favourite. Miraculously, without 1 red cent being paid to clear the arrears, Favourite was suddenly reconnected on the very same day. Wow. Very same day. Not 1 cent paid. Someone gave an instruction that this customer, who had been disconnected because it had not been paying his light bill for 5 years and owed TNTech this amount of money, be immediately reconnected. Do you know who is the owner of Favourite, Mr. Speaker? The chairman of that company was one Andre Montal, former treasurer and major financier of the PNM. Mr. Speaker, you may recall that Mr. Montal is famous, or infamous, some may say, for his role in the Kiko fiasco, which cost thousands of citizens their life savings and cost taxpayers a rescue mission of over $32 billion. Not million, $32 billion. Mr. Montal merrily continued to receive electricity without paying his bills, with no action taken against him. His secret PNM godfather or godfathers and friends protected him. During the period from 24th April 2017 to 23rd July 2019, TNTech entered several payment plans with Favourite to liquidate their arrears. Favourite breached every single payment plan. And yet, no action was taken against Mr. Montal and his company. Compare that and contrast it to the ordinary citizen of this land, that when you don't pay your bill, you go in darkness. They cut you off. You have no godfathers, they cut you. They breach every payment plan. No action taken. Second disconnection. TNTech finally acted on disconnected Favourite for good in January 2022. Okay? By now, from 2017 to January 22, all those 5 years they have been owing. By now, Favourite owed TNTech, as I said before, $2,392,220.11, about $2.4 million. 9 months later, when none of the promised payments materialized, TNTEC instructed lawyers to file a claim. TNTEC instructs lawyers to file a claim. So in November 2022, TNTEC instructed a firm, which was accustomed to getting legal work from TNTEC, to file a claim to recover the outstanding sum, as I said, which had grown to almost $2.4 million. The lawyers were instructed in this matter were from chambers known as Virtus Chambers, and they were none other than Mr. Keith Scotland and Ms. Keisha Kidd Hannibal of Virtus Chambers. On 9 December 2022, Mr. Scotland filed a claim in the High Court against Favorite, claiming the same sum, about $2.4 million, plus interest and legal costs. In the statement of case, this is what TNTEC claimed through their lawyer. The defendant failed and or neglected and or refused to render any payments to the claimant whatsoever on the outstanding balances due and owing to the claimant for both account 1 and account 2, on which interest continued to accrue. Further, the defendant, that is Favorite, continued to have the use and benefit of an electrical connection on both account 1 and account 2 to his premises, and failed and or neglected and or refused to make any further payments to the periodic bills that arose therefrom. For the period November 19, 2019 to December 2020, the defendant made no payments whatsoever. During the period August 21 to present, the claimant to no avail engaged with the defendant on several occasions in order to have monies due and owing to the claimant being TNTEC, by the defendant, have those monies liquidated. The defendant to date has neither acknowledged receipt of the claimant's pre-action letter, nor has it made any efforts whatsoever to liquidate its debt to the claimant. So here it is, case filed. Another 11 months pass without any further word. However, TNTEC's legal department continuously tried to get a status update from Virtus Chambers, the lawyers acting in the matter. Eventually, on October 20, 2023, a meeting was held, and Mr. Scotland Jr. from the firm, Ms. Keisha Kidd Hannibal, indicated that Favorite's lawyer had contacted them and sought an extension of time to file a defense to the claim. No explanation was given as to why Virtus Chambers did not apply for judgment in default of defense after 11 months had lapsed, and the identity of the lawyers who requested the extension was not revealed. Permit me, Mr. Speaker, to highlight that Favorite could only file a defense. As a good lawyer yourself, any lawyer with their salt knows that you could only file a defense after you had entered a memorandum of appearance within 8 days of the claim being served. No appearance, we are advised from all our searches, was ever filed on behalf of Favorite. None. And of course then, no defense was filed either. Yet incredibly, Mr. Speaker, no judgment in default was taken up by TNTEC's then lawyers, Virtus Chambers, and Mr. Scotland from the Chambers indicated that in the light of the delay, he had taken a decision to simply refile the claim. So guess what? Second claim filed. State's default judgment filed. Be that as it may, approximately 9 months later, 10 September 23, Mr. Scotland refiled the same claim, seeking payment of about $2.4 million plus interest and costs. TNTEC again pursued with the Chambers, Virtus Chambers, for a status update on the matter. 17 January 2024, Mr. Scotland's Chambers emailed TNTEC and stated an application for default judgment was filed, and his law clerk was following up on the same. TNTEC continued to inquire about the status of the application for default judgment against Favorite. Mr. Scotland Jr., Keisha Kidd Hannibal, eventually replied by email dated 12 June 2024, and I quote, "I am out of office at the arbitration. However, if I recall correctly, at our clerk's last request, we were informed that the default application was before the registrar for consideration." End of quote. A few months later, Mr. Speaker, in response to growing concerns by TNTEC, by email dated September 4, 2024, Mr. Scotland's Chambers stated, and I quote, "We do apologize for delaying this matter. We continue to make checks on the registry for this and other default applications, but to date there has been no movement on the orders. We will continue to follow up with the office on the Commission's behalf. TNTech kept pressing for a status update. Email dated 20 September 24. Virtuous Chambers, Mrs. Scotland Chambers stated, and I quote, further to your inquiry regarding the status of default judgment application against Favourite, there has been no movement in the registry on the file. In the registry, take note. I continue to quote, this is a challenge we're experiencing with other applications for default judgment. We are currently in the process of liaising with the JSO for the team to which the initial file was docketed to see if the JSO can assist with any positive movement in the process to ensure timely progress. So now we are saying it's the registry's fault. This is what all these are saying to you. Hey, not me, it wasn't me. This is the registry. Where does it stop there? Thereafter, following a conversation between TNTech's legal officer, Ms. Candice Price, Mr. Scotland's Chambers indicated that they advised that the application for default judgment be refiled. Ms. Price recorded the status in an internal email to TNTech's legal department, 9th October 2024. Now remember, this is things that arose from 2019, we down to 2024. Ms. Price recorded the status in an internal email to TNTech's department, legal, 9th October 24. She stated, Ms. Kid Hannibal spoke with Mr. Scotland again regarding this matter, and his suggestion is to withdraw and refile the application in an attempt to propel it forward. This is a third refiling now. Third time, you can't get it once right, you can't get it right twice, you want to refile again. This is what happened. Again, recorded 9th October 2024, Ms. Price recorded the following. Council explained there will be no detrimental effects to the Commission's applications or positions in doing this, since there are no restrictions to same contained in the CPR. Continues. According to Council, no defense has been filed by Favourite. Ms. Kid Hannibal explained initially that when she communicates with the JSO to Justice C. Prasad, she is usually informed that there is nothing that can be done at the judge's level, since the application has to be dealt with by the registrar. However, if there are enforcement issues, this will be treated with subsequently by the judge. End of quote. Following this, the Chambers of Mr. Scotland confirmed 30 November 2024 that the application for default judgment was withdrawn and refiled. I quote from the Chambers. This email confirms that as instructed and have withdrawn and refiled, we have and continue to make checks with the registry and will continue to do so until we have a positive response. Mr. Speaker, it gets murkier and murkier. In response to queries from TNTech, Mr. Scotland's Chambers confirmed that the application for default judgment was filed. Application for default judgment was filed how many months thereafter? It is important to understand what is taking place here. The Chambers of Mr. Scotland was giving the impression that they had filed an application for default judgment, but the court was delaying or refusing to sign the default judgment order. That the court was delaying or refusing to sign the default judgment order. Mr. Speaker, as yourself and me and many others are legal practitioners, I can tell this Parliament that the registrar would normally sign a default judgment application within 2 to 3 weeks. At max, maybe 4 weeks, within 2 to 3 weeks. Once the conditions are met, that default judgment will be signed. After my government assumed office, Mr. Speaker, you recall, in addition to other boards, we appointed a new board at TNTech. And TNTech was then instructed to file a fresh claim against Favourite to get back this almost $3 million in debt owed by Montage Favourite. TNTech was, however, advised it was too late to do so, as the matter was now statute barred. Mr. Speaker, for the ordinary listener, what does it mean? That we cannot file the claim. The time has gone, it is statute barred, so this $3 million in debt owed by Favourite, taxpayers' money, just jump up outside there, gone. But too late, statute barred. Mr. Speaker, what emerged thereafter will shock the conscience of this Parliament and every right-thinking citizen. The court files for both the first and second claims were searched. We searched. There were 2 claims filed for this money. We searched the files. Our lawyers at TNTEC searched the files to find out why the default applications were not signed by the court. Why were they not signed? So much time had elapsed. And then we got this very shocking revelation from the registrar of the Supreme Court. Shocking revelation. The lawyers found no application for default judgment against Favorite on the file. No application for default judgment against Favorite on file.
All quiet today.
As such, 23rd April 2026, our lawyers emailed the registrar of the Supreme Court to seek clarification. So, Mr. Speaker, who is speaking the truth? Is it the registrar of the court? Or is it lawyers that were instructed and hired and being paid by the government, by TNTEC? Who is telling us? So we said, listen, lawyers, find out whether any application for default judgment had been filed by Mr. Scotland's firm in any of the two claims that had been filed by him on behalf of TNTEC. Mr. Speaker, by email dated 23rd April 2026, Madam Registrar Antonia Pear responded, and I will read the contents of that email. I quote, receipt of your email is acknowledged. Kindly note, no applications for judgment default. No applications. No applications for default judgment, whether appearance or defense, have been filed in any of the two cases. Numbers given again. The registrar double checks and reconfirms the position of the judiciary. This is a very serious thing for a lawyer to tell an untruth and deliberately mislead a client. It's a very, very serious allegation.
We're on the mouth now.
And given the seriousness of the matter, the lawyers again wrote to the Registrar General again. They wrote again because we couldn't believe it. They could not believe it. The person who is an officer of the court would engage in something that was not the truth, was an untruth. So we wrote again, our lawyers wrote again to the registrar and disclosed a copy of the emails from Mrs. Scotland's chambers, where he had indicated in no uncertain terms that he had filed and refiled not one but two applications for default judgment and blamed the registrar for the delay in signing the default judgment. Mr. Speaker, Registrar Dion Phillip responded, email dated 8 June 2026 at 9:20 a.m. Mr. Phillip stated, Mr. Speaker, and I quote, receipt of your email dated May 27, 26 is acknowledged and contents noted. I advise that thorough checks were made of our records and no request for judgment in default were filed in any of the matters. Any of the matters. Please note, I continue the quotation from the email received, that in CV 2023-03702, there is a signed dismissal notice pursuant to Rule 8.13.4 of the CPR. And the dismissal notice was attached. Further, I'm quoting, should you require any further information, please do not hesitate to contact the undersigned. Mr. Speaker, you may well know that when one reads the CPR Rule 8.13.4, it states that where a claim was filed but not served within 6 months, it shall be automatically struck off. Automatically struck off. So then what this means is it appears that the claim was not even served on the defendant. Moving along, Mr. Speaker, it is clear that Mr. Scotland may have, and I'm giving the benefit of the doubt, deliberately and willfully misled TNTEC client. The question that arises is, did Mr. Scotland fraudulently misrepresent that he had filed 2 applications for judgment in default of events against Mr. Montal's company, Favorite, and created the impression that it was the court's registrar who was at fault by delaying the signing of a default judgment? Mr. Speaker, from the correspondence, nothing could be further from the truth, because Mr. Scotland never filed any application for default judgment, against PNM friend and financier, Mr. Montal's company, Favorite. Having regard to all of this, Mr. Speaker, this is what I intend to do. I wish to announce I've instructed the Minister of Public Utilities, the Honourable Barry Paderat, to ask TNTEC to institute legal proceedings against Mr. Scotland TNTEC to institute legal proceedings against Mr. Scotland and his chambers for fraudulent misrepresentation, professional negligence, and breach of contract. I have also directed that consideration be given to making a formal complaint to the Disciplinary Committee of the Law Association for breach of the Code of Conduct pursuant to the Legal Profession Act. And further, Mr. Speaker, I have also directed that this matter be reported to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service Fraud Squad and also to the ACIB, Anti-Corruption Bureau, for investigation and to determine whether criminal charges should be laid for conspiracy to defraud TNTEC, misfeasance and corruption. Mr. Speaker, the story doesn't stop there. In trying to get to the root and the basis of this that occurred, we discovered something else. Then TNTEC has a secret list. It's called a protected list. A protected list. When this matter came to our attention, we were not satisfied with the explanation as to how this could have happened. It revealed that Mr. Montal's company had been placed on this secret list. Elite, secret, protected list. That protected list, I'm advised, meant that TNTEC should not disconnect persons who were lucky enough to be on that list, even though they did not pay their bills. That was what the secret protected list was. Let me call some of those names, Mr. Speaker. That protected list, so the public can judge for itself. Keith Rowling, Sharon Rowling, Marvin Gonzalez, Penelope Beckles, Foster Cummins, Donna Cox, Renuka Sagram Singh, Nayan Gatsby Dolly, Kazim Hussain, Terence Dayal Singh, Shamfa Kujo, Simon De Nobriga, Fitzgerald Hines, Alison West, Rohan Sinanan, Hassel Bacchus, and here this one and the others will take me too long. Listen to this. People's National Movement Tobago Council.
Shame.
People's National Movement Tobago Council.
That's a party headquarters.
When I read it, I thought, maybe this is a THA. No. This is the PNM Tobago Council on a protective list, not to cut the bills, not to cut electricity, even though they had not paid their bills. Mr. Speaker, I'm advised that contractors who engage in financing and building Ballyjay House, they are also on that protective list. They were also on this list. So, Mr. Speaker, as I said, we intend to get to the bottom of this with the investigations, and we take it from there. I thank you very much, sir.